number one station that rules the nation. Hello reggae fans, this is Roy Ellis, Mr. Simmerip, and you're listening to Chris Watts Reggae Hour on your radio 107 Meridian FM. Lick it back, jump to the top, conqueror. Lick it back, Chris Watts. This is Chris Watts Reggae Hour with a lot of reggae power. Lick it back, Chris Watts. This is Chris Watts Reggae Hour with a lot of reggae power. 107 Meridian FM.
So about tonight, Kew Gardens, it's a big sellout. How much are you looking forward to it?
How much am I looking forward to it? Quite a lot. It's just because it's a sold out crowd and it's in, again, beautiful surroundings like my winery tour. And it's always nice to do, nice places. There's a forest tour that you can do, and I've done that before where you play all the forests, and there's a castle one you can do where we play Warwick Castle and Doncaster Castle and all these different castles, and it's nice to do gigs like that, instead of in sheds, like the NEC.
It's nice to have nice surroundings.
And especially with reggae, it's an outdoor music.
Summertime music at its
plus,
best.
People can smoke outdoors, whereas you're not allowed to smoke indoors.
That's very true.
Well, that banning smoking to a reggae band is a really serious blow.
It's a bit of a problem.
It is, yeah, it is. Red eyes. Yeah.
So with UB40, what would you put the success to the band down to?
The secret to our success is the fact that we play reggae music, I think, and it's universally loved. It's unifying music, and it's about peace and love and unity. All the cliches that you've heard that Bob Marley sang about. And it's all true. We just played recently with Duran Duran, as it happens, in just outside Auschwitz.
Really? That's an interesting venue.
Well, you don't normally get us to go and have a knees up in Auschwitz, do you?
No, not really. No.
But when we heard about it, we went, whoa, I don't think that's a good idea. We don't want to go and, because it's still very, very, it's an open wound, isn't it?
You
still
can't forget about it.
No, and they explained, they went, we don't want anyone to forget, but we need to heal. And that was in the past, and we want I think it was
kind
called
of move on, although they can't.
Yeah, remember, respect, but still live and celebrate life, And put that way, I thought, okay, I suppose it's a good reason. Of course, Hitler would have hated us, wouldn't he? You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Dancing around with my crew, Hitler would have gone bonkers. Yeah. So hopefully he was turning in his grave.
Well, let's hope so. Yeah. So that was with Duran Duran. Was there any other acts, or was it just?
Oh, there was a heap of acts, but it was just funny for us to be playing with Duran Duran because obviously they're a million miles away from our genre.
Yeah.
But we started rehearsing in the place called the Rum Runner in Birmingham, and next door was a little band called Duran Duran. You know what I mean? So the drummer, I forgot his name. He went, isn't that weird? I heard him saying it. He didn't say it to me, he was talking to somebody else. He went, we used to rehearse with them 32 years ago or whatever it was. He says, and now we're in Auschwitz playing a gig together. He said,
something you never would have predicted.
Well, you couldn't write that, no. Well, it's like Duran Duran, eh? Yeah, but it was nice to see the lads, again. They're all looking fit and, groovy.
So just on that, with the music industry, how much has it changed from when you first started? A lot?
Completely. We come from a different era, the era of CDs, I mean, when we started, we were still doing cassette tapes, which of course you've never seen in your life, I wouldn't have thought. Okay, but
Just.
Yeah. But it's like, my kids go, what are those big CDs when they look at, vinyls?
Yeah.
Well, they're massive CDs over there. But, downloads, destroyed all that, and all of your record companies that used to give you tour support have all imploded. There's none left really now.
So you're more doing it by yourself now than in the past? Or?
Well, we always were independent, We were famously independent properly, when a lot of the acts around in the 80s weren't truly independent. They were, they had father companies, like Chrysalis.
They tried to make out they were independent?
Yeah, and it was when independent record labels became the rigueur, every major started having little independents, you know what I mean? So they weren't truly independent like we were. We were truly independent, which kind of didn't help us at all. You know, it was like cutting off our nose to spite our face, really, because we were selling more singles than other bands who were at number 1 when we were at number 4, because we were independent. We were going through the wrong shops, you know, so we weren't counted for the charts, you know.
Right.
Yeah, so, and that's why, you know, after our initial first album, Signing Off, came out on an independent label called Graduate, we then went, sod it, we can do this better ourselves, and we formed Depp International, and
it must be more satisfying to be independent in a lot of ways, isn't it? Because you have so much more control.
Absolutely. It's more satisfying because we had a much better financial deal, but also nobody could tell us what to do or tell us what the cover's going to be like, or, you know. And that really was because my dad, you know, who was a professional, he was a folk musician, and, you know, he'd made 19 albums or whatever, but he'd been ripped off, you know, properly, like everybody does in that business, you know. So we did have him to
guide you.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. I mean, not that his guidance was that good, because, you know, but, I mean, he made 19 albums, but he only sold 20, you know what I mean? But, yeah, so we were aware of the pitfalls, you know, and we went for points rather than advance, you know. We were being offered, we were all on £7.90 a week, you know, on the dole, and had been for 3 years, and they were offering us 150 grand, you know, advances. And we said no, you know, and we went into the independent route, which of course was the lucky thing we did there, because our first album that we recorded in someone's bedroom on a 4-track Fostex sold 8 million copies, you know, so suddenly we were rich, and that enabled us to carry on, you know, doing what we do.
And forever.
Yeah, more or less, yeah. Well, it helped us get our feet, you know, and we started our own record company, you know, because of that, and, you know, we had our own studios in Birmingham, which again, it's a double-edged sword, that having your own studios, because if it's where you live, nobody comes into work, you know what I mean? It's like you can't get the band in to do anything, and I think you're much better off hiring somewhere, you know, far away, where you all go off, do your work, and then come home. It was like trying to get the band in the studio was hilarious, because they were all off, you know, doing other things with their kids, and yeah, exactly. Some of them had restaurants and snooker halls. Yeah, I was the only one that actually put money back into the recording business, you know, because I set up studios in Jamaica.
Oh, cool. Whereabouts?
In Boscobel, and in Port Maria at Firefly Hill, which is where I had control of a studio that Bob Marley built in the 70s.
Oh, brilliant.
But he was trying to hide it from the taxman, so it was, when I got there, there was a big sign outside going, Robert Nestor Marley's home for the aged. He was pretending it was an old people's home. And inside he had this fantastic, absolutely state-of-the-art 40-foot glass windows overlooking the ocean and all that, you know, and beautiful parquet floors, but no gear in there. It had never got finished. So I became, I put $1 million studio in there, and to do that I had to get the law changed, because they had 100% duty on any instruments or musical equipment. So it took me 6 months of going around talking to different people, and eventually Mr. Patterson, who was the Prime Minister then, agreed and put it to nil. So then I could, you know, it would have cost me $2 million otherwise, you know. So
it's a bit steep.
Yeah, well, 100% duty was a bit daft, you know, when you know that what their biggest export is. Well, their second biggest export is reggae, you know what I mean? So, you know. So
with one of your latest albums, Silhouette, it's a great album. We play a lot of it on the show.
Thank you.
How much were you happy with the outcome of that album? Was you satisfied?
Never satisfied. I'm on a journey, a production journey, you know. And, you know, with UB40, we always produced our own stuff. We never used producers. Because really, I think you should know what your music should sound like, you know what I mean? If you're serious about it, you shouldn't be depending on some outside producer, you know what I mean? Unless that's what you want. We didn't want that, and I've never wanted that. And we have had other producers produce our stuff, and I've never been happy with it, you know. I've always thought I could have done that better, you know. So it's a production thing, production journey I'm on. I was happy with how it went production-wise, Silhouette, you know. And it was a bit of a strange album because it was half covers and half original, which is what I was asked for by Cooking Vinyl. When I went to do the deal, that I says, "What do you want?" And I went 7 of each. I went, "Okay," and it's a pretty good album. I really like the one I did before that, which was Great British Songs, which was where I covered the Beatles and the Stones and the Kinks and the Who and all. I think that's
great to,
Well, I listened to it recently and I hadn't heard it for like 4 years or whatever, And I was like, wow, that's great. But I did that with Sly and Robbie, of course.
So there's also a new album that you brought out in April, which is a live album, UB40.
Yeah.
Is that songs from a long time ago, from gigs, or is that more recent?
They're recent gigs. That's us.
So what we'll be hearing tonight then?
Yeah, well, we've been on a world tour for 18 months, sort of, So that was in Shanghai and in Holland and in Ireland and somewhere else, So it was like just snippets of the tour that we're doing now. But we do change the set around, Tonight there's more Silhouette tracks in, but it's a 2-hour set, you know what I mean?
So you can get everything in there that everybody wants
to hear. There's about four Silhouette tracks, which we wouldn't normally do because
people want to hear the classics.
Of course they do, and we do a lot of festivals, So we're a perfect festival band because we can rock up in Papua New Guinea, the Solomon Islands, and people know our stuff, because we had 40 top 20 hits,
Yeah, exactly, and especially with you, it's very hard for reggae acts to break through the mainstream music channels. I think you don't hear many.
For reggae acts, it's very hard, but if you look at contemporary dance music, it's all influenced by reggae. So reggae's actually having a bigger influence on pop music now than it has ever had. You know what I mean? But we're not having a Shaggy or a Sean Paul moment, or a UB40 moment,
Yeah.
But
what I mean is, you still hear your music always.
Yeah,
you do. So
yeah, it's ubiquitous. Yes, anywhere you go, you'll hear us. Yeah,
that's great. Well, we're really looking forward to it tonight. Thanks a lot for joining us on the show.
Hey, big love, everybody, and I can't wait to get started.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Okay.
Cheers.
Nice to meet you.
Respect.
Yeah, man.
This is the #1 station that rules the nation. Hello, reggae fans. This is Roy Ellis, Mr. Simmerip, and you're listening to Chris Watts' Reggae Hour on your Radio 107 Meridian FM. Lick it back, jump to the top, conqueror. Lick it back, Chris Watts. This is Chris by Reggae Hour with a lot of reggae power. Lick it back, Chris Watts. This is Chris by Reggae Hour with a lot of reggae power. 107 Meridian FM.